What is going on, Clippers fans? Welcome to episode 150 of Clips and Dip. We've made it this far. Tomer Azarly is here to ring in whatever the name is for a century and a half. I'm Chuck Mockler, joined with Adam Osland and William Updike. We know that those guys are doing well. Tomer of Clutchpoints fame, thank you for joining us. How's your offseason? We know you're in Denver right now, obviously getting ripped. How's life?
I mean, now that I see that Will's blonde, it's a lot better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Will has new hair.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but I like the look though. I like the look, Will. I dig it. It's very nice.
I'm going Saiyan.
Is this Super Saiyan 1 or 2? What is it? What are we doing here? 2. Oh, 2. Okay, all right. No, offseason's been good, man. Been I don't want to say busy because it's just been some social stuff. The Clippers obviously don't really give us anything to talk about.
Sure.
So in some sense, it's almost cool that we have an off season and just not really having to worry about anything. But I think for me, I kind of knew the finals was going to be something that I was going to cover. So, do you smell anything there?
Yeah, I just spilled a LaCroix.
Oh,
hey man, there's a beverage here.
I was really just curious to see who the finals teams were going to be because it looked like we were going to be. It looked like it was going to be Denver, Miami for so long. Like a week off. Everyone would have time to plan our trips, and then Boston and Miami kind of messed around. And 36 hours before media day, we found out. So it's been kind of wild, but it's been fun. It's been all good so far.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us amidst the craziness. We're going to be talking some Clippers culture stuff, what we're expecting from the offseason, as well as one particular draft person who Lawrence Frank was watching. But I want to open this up since we just briefly talked about it and ask Will and Adam this. There's been a lot of talk about like Heat culture lately. It's the one thing they seem to have really figured out since they've been a franchise. I asked Clippers Twitter if Clippers have a culture. There's some fantastic responses over at Clippers Pod. But Will, what is the Clippers culture? Do we have one? Is it just a bunch of guys playing basketball together who met in the parking lot before? Where are you at on if the Clippers have a culture?
Wait and see. I think is pretty much the Clippers culture. How they approach the regular season, the news that we get whenever there's an injury. And I mean, with this year with free agency and not kind of knowing even like who our starting point guard could be for the 23-24 season, I think wait and see has got to be kind of the motto for the Clippers.
That hurts because it's very accurate. Adam, do you have a more positive take? I'm feeling pretty fair.
SLC Punk's not holding back on this one. I love it. It's a good look. It looks like Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day or something. Like, he looks good. I like the hair. It brings me back to my days when I used to dye my hair just on the tips blonde like I was Alex Rodriguez back in high school.
Oh, whoa. That's who you were trying to be? Also, this is a
comp. It's quite a comp.
This is a great time to plug. These are on YouTube. If you want to see Will's fantastic hair, check it out on YouTube. But Adam, back to the serious talk now that you're done joshing around.
I guess it's a fluid situation at the moment with Clippers culture, but I'm reminded of our first ever podcast on Clips and Dip. Didn't we call it the C word? Weren't we talking about culture then coming into the season? And that the Clippers seem to have a culture of being a tough-minded, high-character team with a lot of switchability. That's what we thought it was going to be this year. Now, I don't even
freezing
know
cold takes exposed.
Yeah, shit.
How exactly you define the Miami Heat's culture. People talk about it a lot, but it seems pretty vague or pretty general. And some of the stuff I just said for the Clippers could be said for them as well. What's the Denver Nuggets culture? What has been other championship teams' culture? What was the Toronto Raptors culture when they had Kawhi? I think a lot of it is a little bit overblown. It's just, well, we won, so that means we have a good culture here. Okay, could you get a little bit more specific maybe?
It's Heat culture, dude. What don't you understand?
Tomer.
I actually disagree with that. I don't think you can say that about Miami. They won 3 series they were not supposed to win. And they've done this thing for a while.
Culture? Well, I'm saying, what is their culture?
Their culture is no matter who's coming in there, drafted, undrafted, high pick, low pick, they're bringing in everything. They've been to 3 out of the last 4 Eastern Conference Finals.
They've been good. But, like, what is the characteristic? What is the trait? They're tough? Is that it? Jimmy Butler's tough, and they got a bunch of, like, resilient guys?
I think it's a collective toughness. The coach, obviously, a guy who I think started from the ground up, I would say.
Videotape guy,
really,
yeah.
And had the backing of a Pat Riley. I think all that kind of just, put in little bits and pieces, and it creates a culture. I think, look, if we want to joke around about the Clippers, of course we can all just throw in the Peter Griffin grabbing his knee and just saying, "Ah," whatever it was. I don't think the Clippers culture is bad. I think it's been pretty good. They've just been unlucky. I think they've done everything right from, I would say, for the most part, from the top down, starting with Steve. And obviously Ty Lue is someone who's a great leader. I think Lawrence Frank is someone that a lot of people see as a great leader. And I think at this point it does kind of fall on the star players. Not to be overly critical off the bat, but I think Jimmy doesn't shy away from responsibility. He doesn't shy away from accountability. And I think he said after Game 6, we would have won this game if I didn't play like shit. It was on me. I don't recall. Not that that's what you need, but there's a level of accountability that I think this Clippers team maybe doesn't have on that level. I don't believe, and so I think losses need to hit hard. I think they need to bother you. I think they need to really make you want to win the next game, and I don't know if they have that. Not saying they don't. I'm just not sure if they have that. That's based off what I've seen. So I think there's a few things that go into. I think there's a few things that go into having a good culture, but at the same time, they haven't been healthy, and I don't know if we can really judge them fully on their culture when they haven't been healthy. So
That's a great point. I think the health thing is part of it, because I think a lot of it is people are just frustrated with the past couple seasons,
right,
which makes
of course,
sense.
yeah.
Ron So O on Twitter had a great call. He said they were building a culture of doing things the right way, maximizing talent in a positive environment. That's why Winger didn't take other jobs before, and guys like Reggie and Batum were attached to the organization. But he noted that something maybe changed recently, which I thought was interesting. And then another,
I think that comes back to the health though too. Like I do think that there is a fatigue.
Reggie had to be the number one guy.
Yeah, like I do think that there is like a cumulative fatigue that sets in when it's like, I mean, oh shit, here we go again. Like it's gonna be the same thing. And that's that's not anybody's fault. Injuries are just like one of those freak things that you kind of have to deal with. But I think that has permeated in a way where I guess I just don't see the same vigor that I even saw maybe last season. And that's like throughout the roster, like from some of the other role players.
My question would be, when was that moment where the culture was really good with the Clippers? Was it the Game 6 where Terrence Mann had 39? Because
probably
I'm pretty sure the season before that, they went up 3-1 against the Denver Nuggets and lost that series. Did they not have culture then? Like, when was the culture there? Because to your point, Tomer, and I do think there's something to that hardworking Miami Heat team, blue-collar type of style team, and holding yourself accountable. Beginning of this season, Paul George was playing poorly, called himself out in the media, and then had the game winner against the Houston Rockets. Like, we have seen some of that at times. Would people want to see more of it? Sure, of course. Did Patrick Beverley seem to bring a more definable, identifiable culture because of how hard he plays all the time? Yeah, but
and
ultimately,
Russ, to some extent,
is this what's holding them back, or is it just about the injuries that's holding them back?
Well, I will say, for one thing, I think both Pat and Lou were undervalued. Now I know they needed to improve, and I know there's free agency decisions coming up, but
right.
I think they needed to value them and the culture that they started, that they kind of brought here more than they did, more than like just trading Pat because he was going to be a free agent or something, or had 1 year left in his deal. I think it goes beyond bringing in John Wall when you have a Reggie Jackson there who just played his ass off an entire year carrying that team. And that's year I think they really built the culture. That year without Kawhi, and like when PG played like 30 games, if you want to say, that I think was a real good culture building year, because they had similar, I would say, this Miami team, a bunch of hardworking guys who you could never kind of count out. And this is why I'm a little, I don't want to call out the stars too much, but this is like the worst we've seen Kawhi and PG play together. The worst results, injuries aside, like they still weren't playing good basketball when they were out there. I don't know if that's a product of you know, a lot, you know, one coming back, one being injured, or vice versa. Maybe, you know, I don't know if we want to count those first 2 games when Kawhi came off the bench. Those were pretty nasty as well.
Yeah,
So
no, I'm not
there's
counting
a
that
bunch
for
of things
anything.
there's a bunch of things you want to look into. But I think it does start with the stars. You know, Paul George did call himself out, and I think that's great. It doesn't have to be publicly, but I think back to kind of what I said. I think losses just need to hit harder, at least when you're healthy, and you come back and just play with more vigor, like Will said. I think that's pretty important. But I think Pat and Lou, they kind of mess with the culture there by not treating it the way they needed to. I think there's something to having some continuity and keeping guys around, and you know, a bit of the loyalty aspect. I think that's undervalued today. And I know people are going to say they were washed, they were this, they were that. Sure. But I just think there's something there because you've seen them lack a leader, like a Pat, like a Lou since they left. And I don't think that's, you know, shocking to anyone, really.
Yeah. Another person on Twitter, Lee Kashi, had a quote that I don't know if I agree with the first part, but I really like the second part, what he says here. He says, "We don't have a culture." I'm not sure I agree with that. But he said, "We've had a couple of players that have imposed their personalities in a positive way. And that's been a big part of it." And I really like that take because Bev and Lou together, I mean, and to an extent, Trez, were phenomenal from like, you know, we do it for the people in the back, all this other stuff, like that kind of stuff. And then you look at Russ, right? Like Russ, I wasn't a big fan of the move, but when he showed up, seeing Russ care 100% of the time, maybe 110% of the time, made you feel a little more excited, maybe to watch the team play as a whole. And you love seeing him on the bench and stuff like that. So I like your point about maybe treating the relationships a little bit better. Like, dude, that last interview with Lou Will when he breaks the bench scoring record, and everyone was watching that interview, and it was like, something feels off about this. This feels weird. And then I believe it was the next day that he was traded for Rondo. So I like that point about legacy. But I like what Adam, you said, like, there's no real way to like fix, or if you think it's broken, this thing. If everyone's healthy, I bet the culture gets a lot better to some point, right?
Well, and I think ultimately too, like it is a matter of personnel, right? Like Tomer brought up guys like Pat and Lou Will, and like, I mean, you can say that your franchise's culture is like X, Y, and Z. It comes down to like the people in the locker room, and I do think that there was a disservice done this year, and like not intentional and nothing against him, but I do think that like the addition of John Wall didn't really help that locker room. I think that it probably, and I think that like that has its own ripple effects, right, to other guys in the locker room. And that sort of stuff kind of permeates pretty quickly. You know, we saw, I mean, even with Trez, who you mentioned, who like very much, you know, like was a part of like building a culture. I think we kind of saw that, like how quickly those sort of things can switch when there's like a malcontent in the locker room.
Can I throw this out there? Because I feel like culture has to be somewhat independent of one player or a couple of players and personalities. Like they start something, but then it almost takes on a life of its own, to where whenever you come to your franchise, to that franchise, new players come in and they're just dipped in that culture regardless of who is there, because it's from the ground up and it just permeates throughout the entire organization. Does that?
So I don't know if I believe in that. Like, I still think that it takes like every person in the locker room to like buy into whatever that is. And I think that that is what the Heat do effectively. Like they find and put the like empower people in positions, I think, where like maybe they buy into this thing. But like, I think, let's say, had the same situation happen, right? And like they added John Wall to the locker room. I don't think that suddenly makes him like a Heat culture guy. I do really think that it is still ultimately down to the personnel. Because you know, you can call your culture like whatever you want it to be. It can be streetlights over spotlights. It could be whatever thing you want it to be. But like there has to be some level of buy-in. And I do think that that is what the Heat do really well. And I think that part of that though is as a franchise managing like taking a harder look at like those types of personalities that you're bringing into the locker room from that type of a perspective, not just an on-court perspective.
I agree with that. I'm just wondering, it's almost like if it's just as simple as they lost Pat, they lost Trez, they lost Lou, then did they ever have a culture, or was it about them losing some leadership? And there's a difference between leadership and culture in a franchise. And there's that.
I think they're intertwined. I think they are in some way intertwined, especially when you're two leaders.
They're quiet guys. Like
they're not the vocal
quiet guys.
Yeah, they're not that kind of leader. They're not the type of leader that I think this type of team needs. Whereas I think that's why I think Russ was critical for them, because
they started to believe. Ty Lue said it.
Like, on the court stuff aside, Russ, I think, provided a hardworking kind of like accountability, just belief, and all those things that I think maybe they lacked before. Where I would have been, even if Russ were to resign and just never play, I think that'd be fantastic. Just because, like, it's a hypothetical, but like, I think this is leadership, accountability, holding, making sure guys are doing the right things, taking losses hard, calling guys out after a loss. I heard that, after some losses, there might not have been a lot of chatter. It was kind of just quiet at times. So, like, I don't know if that's the type of thing that you want over and over and over again. I think maybe it bothers some guys, but I think that it needs to be shown in different ways, I guess, if that makes sense, in a way that proves, okay, this isn't good. This doesn't feel good. Let's actually try to get our way out of it, instead of going, all right, let's move on to the next game, kind of thing, and brushing it aside like nothing just happened. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but I think culture and leadership are sort of intertwined, and that's why I think they really miss Pat and they really miss Lou.
Those guys
I think it hurt them a lot.
Those guys kind of offset the quietness of the other two guys.
They're called Fire and Ice. They were named Fire and Ice. So I mean,
well, again, I think outside from the bubble bust, like the most promising this Clippers team looked was in that 2021 season, where Kawhi ultimately ended up going down. But like what we heard from Nick Batum and other guys was like they were not okay with like losses. We heard that there was a constant dialogue about sort of like being called out on issues and talking about those sort of things. So I definitely agree with you. I hear what you're saying. I
think even Rondo brought that to some level. I know he wasn't playing well, but I think he brought that to some level.
He'll call you out.
He was called. I think Ty was called the Rondo Whisperer for a reason. I don't know if they if he's still called that, but I know that there was definitely a level of accountability brought from Rondo's perspective. So, like, I think that matters. They haven't had that.
He got into it with Kawhi one time at an end of fourth quarter play on like a near side corner three, I remember. And Rondo was pretty darn good in the regular season. I don't know what happened in the playoffs there. But yeah, it's interesting. It's a hard thing to understand and kind of flesh out. But
I feel like you know it when you see it. It's just one of those things that you just know when you see it. I don't know. I don't think there's a better way to kind of explain it. Like, I don't know. Like Boston's been in like 3 straight Eastern Conference, 3 out of 4 Eastern Conference Finals, but it feels like their culture is a little out of whack right now. I don't think it's just because of losses. I think you could tell there's something just missing there.
And a scandal involving your coach, which doesn't help culture either.
How much is the Clippers culture like really about respecting the regular season, which is something that Lawrence Frank brought up in his offseason exit interview? We need to get back to respecting the regular season, because that's something that I felt like Patrick Beverley could raise the intensity of a 1 out of 82 regular season game because he plays that hard. And Russell Westbrook has brought some of that back, or did, in his limited time with the Clippers this time around.
I mean, the 8th seed just made the finals and the 7th seed just made the conference finals. So how important is it? It is important, but this just comes down to maybe having the right leaders and the right actual culture, regardless of wins and losses. I think mine was very, very unimpressive throughout the regular season. I mean, they were almost
they were an 8th seed.
They were down, but I don't think they ever had like a stretch of games where we were like, okay, this is kind of what they could be at any point. And I watched them here and there, but I think they were down 3 points in the final play-in game, and they were going to lose to Chicago. So I think it does matter. I just think it's more important to have the right kind of leaders and players and accountability and kind of everything kind of set in place, everyone knowing their roles. Terrence Mann doesn't know his role for 4 years now. He doesn't know his role. Like, you just can't keep doing that kind of stuff. You can't. Reggie was a starting point guard, then he gets demoted for no reason other than we signed John Wall. Like, I just don't think you can keep playing around with stuff like that. I think continuity and having a sort of set structure matters. I think everyone said, okay, this 2021 team is good. Once they add Kawhi and PG, they'll be fine. They added Kawhi, they added PG, they lost Hartenstein, they added John Wall. Like, okay, that's a lot of changes. It's not, Kawhi didn't come in ready, so it's a bunch of different things there. And Terrence still doesn't know what the hell he's doing. What he's supposed to do. So like, it's not set. I don't think they ever really got set. I think they have something in place, kind of, but it's not there yet. I would say.
I like that idea. Yeah, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously nothing concrete with a few different positions going on right now and pending free agents and stuff like that. I think Terrence's role being a moving target for so long has been curious. Just seeing him have to work through that. But on the other hand, whenever he's asked about it, he's like, I'm used to it. So it's not a big deal to me. In and out of the lineup, starting, not starting. He seems to figure it out and plays well. It's just really about how much court time he's getting out there.
Yeah, well, and I'll tell you what, I hope it's more than 23 minutes per game next year.
I don't necessarily think it's first of all, what's he going to say? He's not going to call out one of the coaches publicly.
Just give him
Second,
a double bird.
It's the. I mean, how many different groups did he have to play with this season?
I'm just saying, but off of his play, he looked comfortable regardless.
Oh well, sure, good. But we're lucky that he's that good. I think.
Yeah, we're lucky he's able to adapt like that. But like starting 20 games, then coming off the bench the final 20 with Russ, like. Then PG goes down. You got to start Eric, and then that bench looks different again. So it's just like it's all over the place. Norm was out too until he came back. So like it's just again, health does matter there, but like these guys got to have specific role. If you're gonna start Terrence, start him the entire way. Have these guys playing together for 60 games if possible. You can't just keep flip flopping and doing all this shit. Can I curse? Sorry, I don't know if I can curse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're drinking
all the time
during the show. It's fine.
Cool. I don't know if you can do that.
The culture.
Oh, hard curses.
Is the culture fixable when you have Kawhi and Paul George as your leaders and in and out of the lineup? I mean, that's the question, right? Do they have to have somebody like Russ? Do they have to have somebody like Patrick Beverley to supplement that? Or are they never going to be able to maximize their potential aside from the injuries of just having a much more stable locker room?
I think you kind of need both, right? If your leaders are guys who lead by example, which Kawhi, from my perspective, seems like a lead by example guy, which is totally fair because the example is elite when you watch him play. You need someone to kind of be that rah-rah guy. Like you need to, create a mix of like, that's why Russ was good, right? Like you need someone who's going to be kind of the annoying guy to get everyone hyped up and all that kind of thing. If the stars aren't going to be as rah-rah and stuff like that, would be how I see it. Now, obviously you can have too many guys where it's like, okay, chill out for a sec, but the Clippers don't have too many guys that seem like they care too much. So I think they have some wiggle room for adding those guys.
Is there any player on this team that's considered like a fan favorite, like one of those guys you're like transition layup, yeah, if crowd's going nuts, like besides Russ, I guess, sure.
It was Russ.
I mean, they don't have that. And I feel like that's part of it. That part of what Chuck said. Like you need that kind of guy who can just one play, just spark an entire crowd, spark a team.
I think Bones could be that. I think Bones has potential to be that.
You need a guy who can score like dude, Bev would have like 6, 4, and 4. And we'd be like, "Did you see Bev tonight?"
So Pat's throwing a floater over like a guy 2 inches taller than him, and he's doing the too small and talking shit to the crowd, and like,
and it's amazing.
Like he just dunked on the dude, like and he's doing that every time. Like he just did some shit.
You need a shit talker. Like you need someone who's obviously not like push a cameraman. Dylan Brooks level, but like you need someone like on that same level of like this person's kind of an asshole, but you want him on your team. Is the person I think the Clippers need. Which
Will,
they don't
do
really
they have enough
that.
assholes?
No, I don't.
No,
they're in the red.
No, they still need like that guy and that personality, and that was the most like. I mean, obviously he had his moments on court, but I think that was locker room wise. And when they talk about him saving the season, like the biggest thing that Russ brought, and who knows, like maybe if we get 60 games out of Kawhi and Paul George, like that changes and like we feel a little bit different about that, because I do think even just having those guys on court, even if they're not that guy, I still think that does something for a locker room. Although a lot of what Paul George has been doing post his most recent injury kind of has me worried that he is very much not that guy.
You mean when he said anyway?
I mean, the most, you go for it. Yeah, go for it.
We're going to talk about some off-season stuff. We got to take a quick ad break. The ads have been too loud, Tomer. A lot of people complained to us about that, so we've inserted this disclaimer. So if the ads have been too loud for you, go ahead and turn it down. But right after the ads, we're going to be talking the Clippers off-season, and we're going to try and not talk about the things we don't like about Paul George's podcast. Ads coming up in 3, 2, 1.
All right, welcome back into Clips and Dip. We talked a little bit about Clippers culture. Now, talking about the Clippers off season. Where do you guys want to jump in on this, Charles? We've talked about some of the different positions that definitely needs to be figured out. I mean, I think we have such a huge log jam at the power forward position. Where are you at? Where do you want to cut first on this roster?
If I'm gonna, so in the notes I put we need 3 wings switched out for 1.5 good ones, which is we need 1.5 good wings to switch out. Like I don't know what we can do. The CBA has me all confused. Like I'm not sure. Like is it even approved yet? Like we need to re-sign Plumlee as a backup. I don't. Ramona Shelburne was on.
You're all over the place. You're talking Plumlee? Are you talking Plumlee? Are you talking
What's
wings?
Tomer.
Like, what the fuck are we supposed to do?
I want to get Tomer's perspective on this because obviously we talked about the lack of Wingstop all season long, and there was kind of an okie doke where we thought it was going to be Wingstop, and instead we got Olive Garden, as Will put it. Tomer, did that throw you for a loop? The fact that they had all these guys, we thought the team was constructed a certain way, and then they went away from that, and they were playing 3 or 4 guards out there at times?
I like that Olive Garden reference. That's great. That's fantastic.
We're doing good work over here sometimes.
Thank you. We tried.
Don't act too surprised.
This is. I mean, this is just one of the few things that this is why I called it the most frustrating year I've had covering this team. There's so many things that just didn't make sense about this team.
This is a big one.
Yeah, I mean, it made no sense, but like, I'm really not sure, honestly. I don't know why we didn't see the forwards. I really was curious about that. I know that, having some sort of bench depth was a reason, for like some of the starting decisions throughout the year. And, obviously small lineups didn't look great without Kawhi and PG available. You do need both of those guys. And you do need both those guys healthy, not coming back from a 5-game absence and going back down or whatever. Not limited in minutes, not playing back-to-back. So, but yeah, I mean, it's alarming that we barely got to see it this year. I don't know why we didn't see it as much, and I don't know why we would expect to see it next year.
Thank you.
It did feel like at the end of the year that we just saw a team that had too many good players that, like Chuck said, could have been swapped for like one really good player. They had three or four players I thought could have easily helped another team in the right role, but on this team just didn't have a role. Like I might be crazy. I think Amir Coffey could be a legit rotation player on this team. He absolutely can be.
Not when you have Moses Brown needing minutes, buddy.
I mean, I really think he has. I don't think I can recall the last time he had a stint that I was like, damn, Amir was pretty bad.
But even if he's
always just solid.
He never got time. Like he all these guys, it was like remember when Rocco was having to play in garbage time with like Brandon Boston and like Xavier Moon, and people were like, Rocco doesn't look very good. You're like, yeah, it's his first time playing in a week, and he's playing with G League guys.
So like I agree. I think they probably should have swapped at one point. 2 or 3 of those guys for one really good one, and now with the CBA kicking in, what is it, June 30th or July 1st?
Sure, whatever you say, Tomer.
Your best avenue to improve would probably be to trade for a star of some sort before July 1st, because then you're kind of making moves based off the new CBA. I believe if I'm not mistaken. So it's really kind of unclear because a team with Kawhi and PG should be able to win at a high level, but even when they were healthy, it just didn't look like they had what they needed to. I mean, you look at Denver and Miami. These two teams are some of the greatest chemistry we've ever seen. These guys, they legitimately love playing with each other, win, lose, whatever. And I don't know if I see that with Kawhi and PG. There's a lot of things like PG saying Russ is the leader that we need at the point guard position. One of the most alarming things that I've ever heard.
Was it more or less alarming than when Ty said that Russ saved the season right before they lost?
No, it was very clear. That was very clear. Russ saved the season. It's just alarming that a team with Kawhi and PG and these championship aspirations before the season needed a guy who was just The Lakers were begging to get rid of him. Now, obviously, a lot of that goes into fit, but I don't know. It's just alarming to me that team needed a buyout guy to come off to sign. I can't even talk. Be signed, play 30 minutes as a starter, off the bat, and it's alarming to me. I don't know if a team like that has what it takes to win, and I just don't know.
I think that's been the issue for me. We all talked coming into the season, looking at the depth. It seems like this Clippers team would be poised to have both a great regular season and be able to sort of tread water at least while Kawhi and Paul George are gone. But I think you run into an issue where it's too many good kind of Swiss Army knife guys, and you don't have that. You don't just have the screwdriver or whatever the one thing is that you actually need. Do you think that was are you of the opinion that was sort of exacerbated by maybe some difference of opinion between how the team was constructed and the lineups that the coaching staff ultimately went with?
I mean, I think the team kind of accepted who they were going to be once they decided not to re-sign Isaiah and give the percentage or whatever, all the TMLE to John Wall. You basically said we're going to accept not having a backup center. Zoo is going to be worked to death, and if we need Moses to save us, he'll do that, just like he did thousands of years ago. But that didn't really happen this year.
This mother!
Oh my God!
That is wait. That is the first biblical reference in 150 episodes on this podcast.
Really?
Yeah, and we have a
No, we've said G damn a couple times.
Okay, that's not the same thing. Come on, we all say that. But
I difference of opinion. I wouldn't say that, because I think to start the year, I think there was an understanding of, okay, we're gonna have to play smaller. Zoo's gonna have to take a bit of a bigger role. We're gonna try playing the Wingstop lineup more. But I think all of that kind of went to shit when Kawhi didn't come in ready to handle the regular season workload. Knee swelling up 2 games into the season is not great. And he had to miss a month because of that. Now, I don't know if it's because he didn't play 5-on-5 in the offseason and really condition it for that. I don't know if he suffered a setback. I don't know. But that to me set the tone for the rest of the season, where it's okay, we'll get there. Eventually we'll get there. Kawhi comes back, PG goes down. We'll get there. We just never got there. Just never ever got there. So and I think at one point with all the injuries, I think Ty, I don't know, there was a clear difference of opinion on the Russ thing.
Yeah, publicly, which is crazy for this Clippers team.
Yeah, that was, yeah. But it really looked like they needed that, and I think Ty maybe sensed that more from a leadership perspective, because Kawhi and PG don't like handling the ball as much. I don't feel handling the ball, not just getting in their spot going to work, but handling the ball, being primary playmakers.
And PG's not good at it. He turns the ball over a lot.
Chuck made a great first blood joke the other day. That, oh my God, I actually was hollering when I read that. I was like, that is fantastic.
I got to figure out when to use it. It's a very niche joke.
It's amazing. But yeah, I think that was a big difference of opinion. But I think Ty kind of sensed that they need a vocal leader, a guy who can lead multiple ways, the way Russ did. So, I think.
Is that Russ?
I think there's going to be, huh?
No, Tomer, but that comment about Russ saving the season, is that an indictment on the Stars at all? Is that an indictment on the construction of the team? They were still under 500 with Russ, and he saved the season. Is that?
I think so.
I think it's an indictment on
self-belief.
I think it's an indictment on the belief that the team had in itself. That like before Russ, did they not believe
I think
that they
were
could
just
do it?
no. I think they were just fatigued of seeing the same thing over and over again. Like this was the year that was supposed to be different. This is the year Kawhi and PG supposed to be back. We're supposed to make some noise. You expect injuries here and there, but when you're 2 games into the year, your best player goes down again with the same thing. He comes back, goes down with an ankle sprain again, and then PG goes down with I think it was hamstring, quad, something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Leg.
Like at that point, you're just like, okay, we're in January, we're dealing with the same shit over again. Like. At that point, it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and so I can understand why guys are like, tired of it. I understand, and that's where I think maybe respecting the regular season was, needs to be taken into account. Where you have to play every game regardless of who's playing, who's available, and yeah, it's an indictment on the entire team. I would say front office. Coaching staff, players, the fact that Russ needed to save the season like that definitely was an indictment on everyone. I would say.
When we
I just don't see how it can't be. I just don't see how it can't be.
Assuming like put aside the Russ like contract reality stuff, do you think that it's fixable if this team runs it back, or is there a change or a move that you see out there that could or needs to be made in order to make this team, that team?
I mean, this team rarely makes the move everyone thinks they're going to make.
Except for Marcus Morris. Everyone knew that shit was coming.
True. That was a bidding war between the 2 LA teams. So it's hard to kind of pinpoint what they could need there.
You mentioned bringing in a star this summer. Who would you think is the most realistic option for the Clippers?
Offseason.
If they bring in a third guy?
I mean, you have to find a way to get Damian Lillard.
I knew Will wants Dame so bad.
I just don't think he's ever going to leave. I really don't.
No.
But I think if you're here and the Blazers have a chance to get Scoot Henderson, possibly a point guard for the next 8 to 10, 12 years possibly.
Yeah.
That could be your franchise guy. If you decide that we haven't gotten it done with Dame, let's just do right by him, trade him where he wants to go, get assets back, build around Scoot, go from there.
Which would make sense with Simons. People talk about this trade where it's like Simons in the 3 pick and they're looking for an elite small forward. Why wouldn't you just trade Dame, keep your pick, and pick a good point guard?
Because you're never going to get a player of Damian's caliber.
Well, right.
But rare. It's rare to ever get a guy like that.
But they haven't done shit with it.
That doesn't
diminishing
mean you just
returns.
trade him
away, though. Yeah,
That's
but
true.
That doesn't mean you just trade him away.
Yeah.
So I think
They made a conference final.
Yeah, unless he straight up just says, "All right, I'm out. Trade me." They're not going to do it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I think you can try to. If you're them, you probably go after like a Jaylen Brown or. I don't think the Paul George deal really makes sense for them because he might have some of the lowest value we've seen in recent years. He just can't stay healthy right now.
His
the comments he's
numbers
made hasn't
going
helped.
Crazy. I don't know what
podcast numbers, sure. I mean, number 1 podcast in Portland, sure, maybe.
Definitely not. Knowing Portland, bro. Definitely not knowing Portland. I'm sure there's a podcast host that. Never mind. Anyway. Continue.
You have to talk a lot more microbrews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd have to be a star. Otherwise, you trade one of the two guys and maybe build around that. You kind of retool around that, I would say. Not really rebuild, retool. But Dame is a guy. If you can get your hands on a Jaylen Brown, who's I don't see an avenue to keep your 2 guys and trade for Jaylen Brown. So That's going to be tough. But no, it's really tough because, again, I don't know the exact CBA rules when they kick in. I believe it's July 1st. But, the Clippers looked old by the end of the year. They looked old and very unathletic, even with their 2 guys healthy.
They still look like they were going to beat the Suns, though, if healthy, right? We all agree on that.
Well, and then they were going to face a juggernaut in Denver that probably would have swept them.
Okay, so they play the best team in the West and lose to them in 4 or 5.
But we're supposed to be the best team in the West is what the issue is. We're not a
if Kawhi and PG play all those games and they get swept by the Nuggets, that is pretty bad.
I don't think they would. I think it would be competitive had they faced off and both teams were fully healthy. I know everybody.
Sure.
I think it's easy to say now, there's no way they beat Denver because we've seen what Denver has done this playoff run. But if they get
Denver's owned them for a while.
I don't put a ton into the regular season nor what happened in the bubble. I got to be honest. That Montrezl Harrell guarding Nikola Jokic is not happening now.
Anthony Davis guarded Jokic and couldn't do shit. Who was going to guard him here?
Jokic was pretty offensively. Wasn't even that great.
Moses
the last 3
Brown,
games.
buddy.
Yeah. You ever heard of a 7-footer named Moses Brown? Okay, so we're talking player acquisition and things like that. The free agency class also not very good. We can all kind of agree on that.
Jeremy Grant, Damian Lillard.
Oh, sure.
Get him. Get them both.
Go get them. But a lot of Clippers, the hype for Bob Myers is something that's kind of making my head hurt.
God.
So and Tomer's apparently. He officially parted ways with the Warriors this week. I just want to read a couple quotes for the people who really want us to hire Bob Myers. Bob Myers said the answer to the question why he is leaving the Warriors is because he doesn't feel like he can give the full effort and engagement needed for the job. And the other quote he said was, 4 years ago, I thought, can I keep doing this? And how can I keep doing this? Does this sound like someone who wants to work for another NBA team next year?
Not in that capacity.
No. Bob needs a year off. I don't know why.
He's gonna take a year off, right?
Yeah, it's very
make a leap year. Go to Europe, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, barring a situation where he does what Daryl Morey does, where he's like, I need to spend time with my family, leave the Rockets, and then joins the Sixers like a couple weeks later. I don't see that.
Yeah,
I don't see that because they actually have been through a ton of stuff, and I'm sure a lot of it hasn't even come out. Well,
because the departure was weird. Because Joe LaCobe had that weird quote where he didn't know that Bob Myers was leaving until a couple days ago, and it's well, that doesn't seem like it makes any sense.
There was a ton that was. I think he called him his fifth son or something.
Really
there
weird.
There was the whole draft thing where he was like, "Who's handling the draft?" And he's like,
"Someone will figure it out."
I think having seen the success they had, and it just seems like he actually just needs a year off. He just needs to get away from the game and find that desire to do what he does. And I'm sure the desire for him, the market for him, will be even better after that next year when a few teams probably disappoint and they're in need of a president or general manager. So.
Feels like foreshadowing, but I don't like it one bit.
Oh no, I really wasn't. No, I wasn't referencing the Clippers.
No, I'm saying it feels like it. To me, that feels. I saw that image in a couple years.
I just don't see him taking a job right now. I think it makes sense for him to just walk away for a bit and see Europe, go see France, go see England. I don't know, go see a soccer game in England.
I'm also of the opinion, Tomer, and I'm curious your thoughts about this. I think there's an issue of, okay, so do you fire Lawrence Frank then? Because track record wise, what has he done to the point where it's oh, this guy needs to be out of here. So I think on one hand, if you bring him in and you keep Lawrence Frank, there's a too many cooks in the kitchen thing. And then on the other side, I'm if we're not willing to move either one of the big two, what do you need this GM in here for? With all these connections,
drafted pretty well.
Truly, what are you expecting?
I mean, I don't think you need to get rid of Lawrence Frank. I think, again, there's only so much the front office can do. Granted, I think the biggest mistake they probably had was just going after John Wall instead of re-signing Isaiah Hartenstein, and that also could have been player pushed. So. I think the players probably hold in the coaching staff, whoever wanted them there, deserves to hold.
I think it was looking at some of don't season stuff. But
yeah, I think that they need to take some accountability for that, and admit that it didn't work. But I don't think Lawrence Frank. Why would he lose his job? First of all, I don't see why he.
On paper, the team
in 4.5 years they've constructed the team that lost Chris Paul and Blake Griffin and flipped it to Kawhi PG with a good enough culture, I would say. A championship head coach, two championship head coaches, and Doc and that's probably a joke now, but Doc and Ty Lue. And so, I think he's done a good job. They've done everything they probably can. Health has just gotten in the way. I really think they probably win that 2021 title if Kawhi stays healthy. I don't think any team really impressed me outside of the Bucks in the finals few games, but no one really was impressive like that. I think it was kind of open. This year. I don't know. Stay healthy. You never know. But Like I think Lawrence Smith kind of done all he can, and if you do bring in another GM, a Bob Myers or something, you're bringing that person in either A, to replace Frank, I would guess, or B, with the understanding that there's a plan that you guys kind of want to work together on, and obviously you're not going to get a yes man and agree to everything you want to do, and there's going to be indecision and disagreements, which makes sense.
But I mean, I would be a yes man if they want to hire me to be a yes man GM. Whatever they say goes. Let's do it. Great idea, Lawrence.
Bring back John Wall. Sounds great.
Great idea, Lawrence. Love you, Steve. This is awesome.
So yeah, I don't see why. Lawrence has done a great job constructing this team. I don't think one disappointing year where health played a significant role in the end of the year really should play a part in that. Yeah, that's what I think.
Completely agree. And you touched upon something there in talking about the culture and them going small with guards this season and the lack of responsibility and maybe guys wanting to bring in John Wall. I heard a theory out there that it's not so much about Coach Lue, it's what PG and Kawhi want. The guys on the lob, the gym, the pod, were talking about this the other day, that they're the ones at the forefront of trying to get a guard to just have less responsibility on their shoulders with handling the basketball. Do you think some of it is about that?
I mean, let's be real. There's been a lot of things in the last year and a half that is just like, okay, maybe these guys aren't who we thought they were on that level. Like Paul's, Paul saying he's the one, I'm the two, and Ty having to go, wait, no, I need you to be that guy still.
Yeah.
Them trying to get PG to handle the ball more, and the inconsistencies with ball handling and turnovers got to a point where they just constantly needed to find a point guard. I think there's just so many things where I think Ty probably wants them to have that responsibility, but they're not saying I can't do it, but they're kind of showing you that they would rather
they
not,
can't do it,
in my opinion.
PG kind of said it.
Yeah.
He's like I was interested, but then I was getting picked up by Drew Holiday full court, and I was like, nah, this isn't for me, basically.
And then letting Drew Holiday switch back onto him. Anyway, that one possession is burned into my brain for how Paul George at the point guard works out, but continue. Sorry.
It's very clear that they I don't want to say they can't handle it, but they don't want to.
It's not their skill set.
And I think that if we're being honest, your highest paid players, your seventh highest paid players in the league, can't be doing that. They can't be doing that. Straight up, they can't be doing that. And that's why I don't think you can win right now with this type of mentality. With this, don't draw the first play for me kind of thing. And I know it's just work your way into a game, but like, I don't know. It's just I think you need a bit more of a killer mentality, a bit more of a serious mentality when approaching this. And these are the 7th and 8th highest paid players in the league. They don't want to handle the basketball.
66% of your payroll is happy to not be the guy. That's a major issue. I just don't know how you get around that.
And what's tough is like in my head, you can have Kawhi be Kawhi, which is a top 3 player when he's healthy and he's a leader by example. Ideally, the number 2, even if they are the number 1, is at least, in that same Pat Bev, Jimmy Butler mindset where it's like, we got to get this shit every single game. It doesn't matter if it's game 1.
Hell, Chris Middleton. I'll take a Chris Middleton mindset.
Right. But the thing is, Paul will show you that sometimes. Paul will show you that
when
he
wants
be that
to.
guy.
He wants to when it's convenient for him.
Yeah, he has games where you're like, dude, just do this every game. Like, just do this every game. Like, how many times have you had to say, Paul, just take 10 threes a game, please? Like, you're such a great shooter. Just take 10 threes a game.
Their best playoff run, getting to the Western Conference Finals, the ball was in PG's hands a ton, obviously, those last, 8 games without Kawhi Leonard. He was running the show, and he was comfortable doing it. I wonder if some of it is just to get through the regular season, we like to have more of a playmaker out there. We'll handle more responsibility in the playoffs and more of the workload then.
But then how are you taking the regular season seriously as prep for the playoffs if that's the case?
Well, so with Ty Lue, it's hard because Ty Lue, as every Cavs fan will tell you, the regular season for Ty Lue, if you're a fan, is kind of a nightmare sometimes because you're trying these things. So I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying it's kind of a perfect storm, right? Of tinkering Ty. And then
that 2016 Cavs team was great.
I just think
regular season, they were great all the way through.
I just think tinkering he had LeBron James. That's what it is. He had LeBron James. Like Ty was great. Ty really was great. He made everything he needed to do. He had a healthy star who was available and knew what he needed to do. So that helps. That helps.
Can't argue. Yeah.
You didn't need to go get a point guard out there because you had one. One who wasn't shying away from ball handling responsibilities. When you have that, you have to figure out ways to keep things moving, keep things going, and has to look good at times, hasn't at other times. But that Cavs team, I think Ty was able to do whatever he wanted to because he knew he had LeBron,
and they looked like champions.
Yeah,
at some point in the regular season.
Yeah, you can do whatever. You can pull guys out. You can play small. You can play big. You do whatever you want because you have a LeBron James in your team who can do anything he wants to on the court. Isn't shying away from anything. So,
all right, real quick before we take another break and talk some draft stuff, Tomer, what would you say is the number one thing the Clippers need to fix? What's their number one priority this offseason?
Fix the Wi-Fi at the arena.
Thank you. Finally, someone says it, bro.
Bro, I put my phone on a hotspot. I got that T-Mobile 5G. I can hook you up. It's fast.
It's bad. It's bad in there, though.
I use the guest one because it's so bad. I literally use the guest one about the media.
What do they need to fix?
Is it the 4 position? Maybe.
It's either get a bit more athletic, especially at that 4 position. I would say, and define roles. Just define everyone's roles.
Terrence Mann should not be playing the 6, as Tyler put it.
Even if he doesn't start Terrence, just give that guy consistent minutes at that position as that player. I think Terrence should start. Like I don't. I'm trying to think of another way around this. But like Terrence should have been the starter for the December round, whatever it was.
But then Westbrook doesn't save the season, so.
I was like, content-wise, where are we at?
Yeah, so like Westbrook was good. I think he may have even been better on a bench role. Staggered with some stars, but like Terrence should have started. I think you're. I don't remember who made this comp, but like it might have been Jamal on Twitter. But there's just a great misuse of Terrence, in my opinion.
Well, you look
just
at
not using him the way he's supposed to, and when you look at on one team alone, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, and who's the last guy I had?
Well, both teams, Brett Brown,
Caleb Martin. Like these are guys who, again, maybe they got a little hot, but they know their roles and they're playing well in those roles and not playing above those roles. I think that's important. So I think just define roles and get more athletic at the 4. I would say is probably what they would need to do, in my opinion. But also find a way to stay healthy. But I don't think you can control that. That's just
come on, Tomer. If we knew how to find a way to stay healthy, I think we'd be a much more fun podcast. We'd be talking about the Clippers in the finals, and it'd be a great time.
You need to buy hyperbolic time chambers for everyone and just throw them in there. They don't get to go home. They just go sleep in there.
That's
until the next game.
Adam, can you source us some hyperbaric chambers? Adam he was doing a bunch of cryo earlier in the season.
I sent myself back in time, so I didn't watch all of this season, actually. I was still in 2021 watching the Clippers win on Earth 2.
Yeah. Bro, Clippers on Earth 2, unstoppable. All right, coming up, we're going to close out the show with some draft talk. A couple of shout-outs for some former Clippers who, hey, happy for them. But first, as we mentioned, Tomer was complaining about it earlier. We have some ads coming up. They're a little too loud. If they've been too loud for you, go ahead and turn it down. We're talking draft and other random stuff coming up in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back in Clips and Zip, episode 150. We've made it to this point. We got Will Updike. I'm Adam Mazen. Chuck Mockler's here, and Tomer Azarly from Clutchpoints. Follow him there. He's got 30K followers already, and Clutchpoints has the most unhinged graphics you will ever see to assist the story.
They're perfect.
I mean, creative. I mean, crazy. Wild, and they work. I love it.
I will say, Clutchpoints Brazil on a whole different level than any other of the Clutchpoints.
Really?
Well, that's the one. That was the Clutchpoints Brazil. Did the was it Kawhi holding someone's head? Like
the
they
Kathy
took the fidgeting. No, they took like a Kawhi fishing pick, and like someone was on, like a player was on the line of it, and everyone was like, "What the fuck
they're out of
is
pocket.
this?"
They're out of pocket right
Yeah,
now.
it was a little crazy. It was a little crazy.
Chuck, you pulled up this draft story. You want to lay it out here for Tomer?
Yeah, so the draft is coming. The Clippers have the 30th pick and the 48th pick. It doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't really matter for next year's success, but does it? Lawrence Frank was a
They can find another Terrence Mann and not play him. It would be great.
Hey, maybe we could find another fee and play him a bunch. So Lawrence Frank was at the Clutch Pro Day, which some people will be upset about, but he was watching a Duke freshman named Derek Lively. He's 7'1". He's got a 7'4" wingspan. He did make 14 straight corner threes in front of NBA teams, but this was literally never on display when he played for Duke in game. He's obviously a center. He's springy. He's a good defender. My thing with this is every single player the Clippers have been scouting is someone who every time I look at their draft profile is slated to be drafted
Going
much higher than the 30th or 48th spot. So I guess my question is, would we actually move up in the draft to take a center when we have Musa? And do these workouts make us think that a trade up is happening? Maybe, or just in the idea, because they're looking at people like we did an episode last week, and they were looking. They had a pre-draft workout with like the best shooter in this draft, who's like a maybe like a lower lottery pick. So, Tomer, do you think they make a move in this draft? We know they buy picks and things like that, but how do you think they're approaching this draft?
I mean, it is the 30th pick, if I'm not mistaken, right?
30 and 48.
So, I mean, the 30 means you need a guaranteed roster. That's a guaranteed contract as a first rounder. So, I would imagine you would trade that. You can keep it. I don't see the point. Like Brandon Voss is not going to play. Xavier Moon's not going to play. I don't think they drafted him, but Moose is probably not going to play.
Amir?
What am I forgetting? Amir should play, but he's not going to play.
Yeah,
he might be the athletic four they need actually.
Hey.
But like until you see that, it's hard to say they can find another Terrence Mann because I don't know if anyone else getting that kind of role or that opportunity.
Yeah,
rather. So a first round pick is a guaranteed contract. So unless they're getting off some guy's contract, I don't even know what their payroll looks like this year.
You think Frank is scouting for somebody else? He's ready to trade that pick.
He's taking some consultant work. Yeah.
If you're in win now mode, what does the first round pick do for you when both Kawhi and PG are over the age of 30 right now on a team that already has young guys, as you mentioned, that aren't playing?
They have 13 guys signed, including Eric Gordon's not fully guaranteed. Like, what? I don't know what you're doing with a draft pick. You don't need that draft pick.
So you think maybe move down,
or package it in some way.
just
move out.
Acquiesce the pick. Just say we're not picking.
Just hit him with the Uno skip card.
Yeah. Boom.
Remember, whoever's picking 29 should just hit the skip card and have it. Yeah.
We choose not to pick.
Yeah. I don't know what a pick does for you. If you keep that pick, it's a guaranteed contract. Like I don't know what that player does for you unless. Yeah, I don't know what that does for you. You got to sign, Mason Plumlee, hopefully. Russell Westbrook would be 15 players, I believe. So, like, what's the point in kind of signing?
You're not wrong.
Drafting and trading someone?
Yeah. I mean,
Rocco Morris and 30 for Jeremy Grant. Sign and trade.
Who does that?
Why would Portland do that?
So my thing, too, is like, I mean, I think
they're drunk.
The Ontario Clippers posted highlights, I think yesterday, of just like how there were some crazy buzzer beaters and like Musa was having these double doubles and Brandon Boston Jr. was obviously there was that stretch early in the year where the Clippers G League team was just like destroying the other G League teams. But that doesn't matter. Like for the LA Clippers, that does not mean anything because those guys, Bones is a better version of Brandon Boston Jr. and I think is kind of Brandon Boston Jr.'s ceiling. So like, yeah, do we just hoard second round picks to try and like trade or something? Like, I actually hadn't thought about that perspective, Tomer, of like, why even draft someone who's going to be a guaranteed pick if they're not going to come in and make an actual impact next year?
Yeah, I mean, they'll last you drafts. I mean, who they take? They took Musa last year. They took Quentin Grimes was traded. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the picks have been traded, but like, I just don't see the point. Really, I really don't. Especially not a first round pick that's a guaranteed contract.
Yeah.
Unless you're climbing into an area where you really, really like a guy and he's someone that you believe can be part of the rotation. And even then, I believe did they trade for Brandon? I think they traded in for cash. I believe it was.
They
for
bought the second round pick.
Yeah, from the net, I believe. Yeah. So like, I just don't see that pick helping the Clippers. And if it's a guaranteed contract, it's just taking up a spot. So,
Tomer, who do you think of Batum, Morris, Rocco? How many of those guys are going to be there when the season starts? When we talk about a logjam of the 4,
how many of those guys are going to be there?
One of them, 2 of them, all 3 of them?
I will say 1. I will say 1.
God, I hope so.
I think it makes sense to keep 2, but I don't know how happy Robert is after the role he had this year.
Oh, if I was Robert Covington and Terrence Mann, I'd be like,
yeah.
What else
Terrence
can
Mann,
we
I'm
do
asking
here?
out.
Where can I go?
I mean, the thing is, Robert is signed, so it's not like he has anywhere to go.
Right.
Yeah.
None of these guys are free agents, but like, I really think that Rocco and Nico will be here. I think Marcus.
You're selling low. You got to sell low though on him. I mean, he's an expiring, but other than that, it's kind of like
he's very clearly not.
You trade him. You trade him to whoever has the 29th pick and now the 30th pick, and be like, here you go, give me the 29th pick.
That's not a bad call. All right, we're gonna wind this thing down. There was just some breaking news. The Pistons just hired Monty Williams for 6 years, $72 million deal.
6 years.
Yeah, it's a shit ton of money. Yeah.
Which I think does that make him, because Pop is the highest paid at 11.5 a year. Does that make Monty the highest paid? I can't do the mental math right now.
I think he's close.
Yes, he's highest paid.
Damn. Hey, shout out to Detroit.
Wow.
All right. Well, shout out to Detroit. We got to give a couple other shout outs. Reggie Jackson, Jeff Green, and DeAndre Jordan. Congrats on making the finals. We hope to be there someday. I don't know. Would you guys have anything else to say about this?
Tomer, did you talk to any of the guys, or did you ask any questions today at the press conference for the finals?
I didn't catch Reggie. I didn't catch DeAndre and Jeff Green. I did catch Reggie. We spoke for a few minutes in the hallway. I mean, he's happy, man. He's like this weather is a close. It's a 1A 1B because right now it's been really good in Colorado. It's been really nice, sunny. It's a 1A 1B to LA, but still got love for LA. Still got love for all the fans. Shouted out assistant coach, I want to say Bo and Norman Powell.
Hell yeah!
For their recent birthdays. Didn't mention to you, Lou, but.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean,
we're bringing heat on this podcast.
I'm just saying what
we're the cooler.
Yeah.
No, it's funny because Reggie actually, I think he was getting like annoyed with one guy's questions. He was like asking about the 2012 finals and how much it sucked not to play, and Reggie was like, "All I remember is that we lost."
Yeah,
and he goes, and he asked some kind of follow up, and Reggie clearly wasn't into it, so I just went. I peeked in my head. Kind of most of the guys went, and I went, "Hi, Reg." And he looked and he goes, "Hey, how are you? What's up?"
Here we go. You're the cooler.
A familiar face.
Yeah.
So kind of saved him from a bit of an awkward moment there. But it was cool. It was all fun and games. We'll see each other this entire trip. I'll be on this entire finals trip, which hopefully goes longer than 4. So
you talk shit to Mike Malone or anything? Any weird interaction there?
Me personally?
Did he get snippy with you?
Yeah, Tomer gave him a "you suck."
So I had to make a business decision. It was either talk to Michael Malone or talk to Reggie Jackson, and I chose Reggie because they both talked at the same time.
Great call.
A little warmer.
So, but I'll get to hear Michael complain about how they're underdogs tomorrow. It's not like I missed out on anything big.
Hey, it works.
And if not, then the game 2 or game 3, whatever it might be. So
who do you have winning the series?
Yeah.
So my head My head says Nuggets in 5. My heart says Heat in 6.
In 6.
6?
Yeah,
What's your third eye say though?
I think I think I'm gonna go. I think I want to go Miami.
Wow.
There's something weird about this Heat team that you just can't count out. You just
culture.
I don't know. Maybe this is one of those shares that you're overthinking, and that it's really as simple as they got the MVP. Jamal Murray's playing like a fucking animal, and they're just gonna blow through him. They have a size advantage. They have an experience advantage. They have depth. Like they have everything they need. Health. Yeah, Tyler Hero might not be back till Game 3, maybe Game 4. So like, Denver has everything they need to possibly sweep the series, and I would not be surprised one bit if they sweep. But something about Miami just
they're peaking at the right time. They're just like they're doing what you want to do in the playoffs. They're peaking at the right time.
Been there.
Yeah, like the amount of mental and emotional fortitude it takes to bounce back from that Game 6 loss when you thought you had a finals berth at home on some bullshit buzzer beater where the only way the ball could have bounced would have beat you, and it did. And to come back from that and win Game 7 in Boston, like I just that takes so much that I don't know how many teams could do that. And so like I think there's something special for this Miami team. I really do. Like Denver's just blown through the competition because they've been amazing, but something special about this Miami team to me. I don't know. I'm gonna say Heat in 6 just to be different because everyone's picking the Nuggets. I'm gonna say Heat in 6.
Heat in 6 from Tomer. Thank you so much for doing this podcast. By the way, we know you're in Denver. We know the altitude's got you all crazy. Is there anything that you would like to promote for yourself before we send these wonderful people on their way? We have to say thank you for your Clippers coverage this year. This is a very difficult year to cover the Clippers. You were fantastic. It's very much needed. Clippers fans, thank you for what you do.
You asked the tough questions.
You held
you held people accountable.
You held the organization by their
collar. I created change.
I
created change.
Yeah,
but only someone asked a tough question.
Hey, you broke the Hartenstein story, right?
Yeah, the Hartenstein thing, the Batum starting thing. Yeah, that was a couple things.
Oh, see, so,
big time.
We need Tomer. Now, please promote yourself for the 16 people who listen to this podcast.
No, I mean, thank you for the kind words. That's too much, but I do appreciate it. This was definitely by far the toughest year I've had in my 7 years covering this team. But it's just, I think it was still fun. All the relationships you make and everyone you meet there. So I still really enjoyed it. But it was tough. I don't really have anything to promote other than like my, I'll probably put some work out from the finals, and I'm trying to get someone an interview with a Clipper, hopefully soon, that I can push out if they answer their damn phone.
Pick up the phone, Paul.
I'm trying to get on podcast speed. That's what's going on. So I'm using this as no.
Yeah. If we're the stepping stone and then it's podcast P, we'll take it. Please tell people that's how it works.
All these guys do is talk S about podcast P. This is not going to work.
Yeah, podcast sucks, but go
on. No, I don't really have anything to promote. Just, check out. I'll probably get some content out on some written content out over the next couple of weeks, the next couple of days from the finals. Get some cool video stuff from the finals. Just follow along, support there, and I appreciate everyone for all the support the last couple of years. It's been fun. Kind of hoping to break through eventually. I was talking to Justin the other day, and I was like, dude, I'm never gonna cover up the finals team.
Next year. What do you mean? 365 days. You'll be there.
Look, a couple of glasses of wine in. I wasn't of the best mindset, but hopefully.
What kind of wine? What's your wine go to?
I go with the Justin.
Justin. I don't know about any wine made by someone named Justin.
I think it's Justin. It's a cab. There is something called Earthquake that I get from Bevmo. We're just doing free promotion over here. Damn. And the last one is a Josh Reserve that I like to drink. So I'm getting into the wine game. My brother works at Bevmo, and he got me into the wine game, and I have to say I'm in. It's expensive, but I'm in. So
red wine. Hey, when Will drinks too much red wine, he becomes someone known as Red Wine Will. So y'all could have a pretty entertaining sports debate show if you had a couple glasses of wine. I think.
Yeah, we were getting to a point where I was watching these conference finals, sipping on the glass, and I was like, "Yo, this is nice. This is cool. I like how this feels."
There we go. Well, thank you for being on the show, Adam. Will,
thank you.
anything to tell these wonderful Clippers fans while we send them on their way on this chilly Wednesday evening?
Just thanks for listening. You can check out this pod anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can review us over on iTunes or Spotify. Check us out on YouTube. That's at Clippers Podcast. You can see Tomer's very revealing outfit on the show. It's very scandalous. And you can chop it up with us anytime on Twitter. That's at Clippers Pod.
And he's at Tomer Azarly, Azarly on Twitter for all that good finals coverage.
There we go. We need it. We'll be back with you next week. Kelly Washington's going to join us, digital news producer over at Good Day LA and a fantastic Clippers fan. Thanks for rocking with us. And as always, let's go Clippers.